What should you do with perishable offerings? Dagda agus fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School here, and that is a guest or question that we are presented with quite often here at the Irish Pagan School, and it's one that comes up quite regularly when people are beginning to develop a practice of spirituality that involves offerings to gods, guides, guardians, whatever it is. I did a video not so long ago about how and what are offerings in a spiritual relationship. If you'd like to know more, definitely go and check that one out. I should probably link it down below. But the question that appears in the comments there and has been around for quite a while is when it comes to perishable offerings, what do you do after with them? How long should they stay? How do you dispose of what's remained or what's left? So I suppose first thing to consider is I've talked about what is an offering and the energy or involved in an offering, but when it comes to perishable offerings, most commonly we're talking about foodstuffs. Interestingly, I happen to have right here the offering that I placed most recently on my altar for the Dagda. So, what I'm holding is a chicken leg that I roasted for yesterday's dinner, a lump of fresh butter, and a piece of a cob roll was the first bread that I baked quite recently. So, all of these items I chose to place on the altar space that I have for the Dagda, which is the god that I choose to offer to in my spiritual relationship to. Now, those are perishable items. They're gonna rot or go away or corrupt over time. It's not something like a crystal or like a statue or anything like that at all that is non-perishable. So when it comes to most common perishables, we are talking about foodstuffs, but the timeline of decay and disposal really is going to differ for each individual. And so the question about how long should you leave it, it is a matter of honestly being on top of that on a regular basis. Like I sit here in the office, I'm here every day. I do the work for my partner, our company, and the education that we do, but then also my spirituality and my practices because the altar is literally right there. So I'm coming here every day to check in. Sometimes I'm lighting a candle, sometimes I'm making a coffee for me or coffee for the Dagda. In that instance, it's a portion of the meal that I cooked yesterday for my family. Now, I'm in Ireland. Environmentally speaking, we're at the latter part of the year. We're into autumn at this point, so temperatures are shifting and changing. We don't get like super high heats here. Well, we're on the cusp of that, thanks global warming. But it's a very damp climate because we get a heck of a lot of rain. Now, that will then dictate the time frames involved for the organic decay, really, of perishable items or foodstuffs. So really when it comes down to time frames, it is going to be based on your environment, where you are actually based. For me, that's been there since yesterday. I will probably leave it until the end of today when I serve dinner for my family, and then I will dispose of it. Now, if I make a coffee, for example, the coffee goes into the cauldron, which sits in that space, and that might be there for 2 days or 3 days, depending on the time frames. But I'm here checking every day, and engaging with that process every day. When it comes to the energetic elements of the offerings, what we're talking about, the I'm not going to come down and find, physically speaking, the offering gone. The Dagda isn't going to manifest in a physical corporeal plane and take the food and disappear it. That's not what's going to happen. But what does happen is the kind of energy, the quintessence, the essential goodness, internal, like the value, the nutritiousness, etc. uh, well, the esoteric goodness almost is what is offered. And so I know people who, after it's been placed there overnight, and if they're in a certain environment where it works for themselves or the what it is that they've offered, they might consume it themselves because it has a nutritional value. For me, when it comes to that plate, it is bread that I made myself, it is chicken that I roasted myself, and some butter. I'm going to take that and I'm going to place it outdoors. I'm going to place it in the back garden for the birds to eat on. Now, environmentally speaking, this is where we have to talk about the next stage in disposal. The when to dispose of it is when you revisit your altar and you check what's on it. Is it beginning to decay? Is it something that you feel is no longer should be there or no longer providing that energy or value within the spiritual transaction? Um, and that time frame is going to be different. But when I dispose of it, it's important to make sure we're considering ethical and environmental impact in our disposals. So if we're dealing with perishable items, most commonly, like nothing on that plate is going to harm an animal who consumes it or a bird that consumes it. And so that's why I'm comfortable leaving it out. If there was something that would, if there was, say, I don't know, garlic or onions or some kind of herbs or spices in it that could be harmful to the digestive systems of the wildlife in my area, then I might make a different decision about it. Like rice, for example. Dry rice, it's not really, we stopped throwing rice at weddings in Ireland because pigeons would eat it, it would swell inside them, and then they would be hurt and die. And so those are things we need to be considerate of. Or, for example, if the rice is left out for too long, it gets watered, then it might ferment, and next thing you know, whatever animal consumes it is getting drunk on it or poisoned on it. And that's what we don't want when it comes to disposal of the remains of our offerings. Fundamentally, it comes down to this idea of doing no harm and having a minimal environmental impact. Because one of the cornerstones of paganism is a reverence for nature and the environment around us. And so, if through our practices we are discarding or disposing of stuff in such a way that it would be harmful to our native environment, then we're not being very good pagans. So, when you are then considering what it is you're going to give as a perishable offering, that should be something you take on board. That should be something you think about. Like, how am I going to dispose of this? In what way am I going to dispose of it? To make sure that it's not going to have any negative environmental impact. If it is a case that, you can't dispose of it, you don't have native wildlife, you're in an urban area, it's not something you can leave out your back garden or something like that. Or if putting something out in your back garden would attract dangerous animals from your rural environment, not something you want to be doing either, then it is a matter of just conscientiously disposing of it, putting it in your compost or putting it in your trash receptacles or rubbish, because to a certain degree, the essence, this energy or quintessence, is gone from it. Now, I know people who have a much more active engagement around some of their offerings, and once the energies have been given, once like that first effort, first kind of energy, that reverence of placing it on the altar, they then consume it themselves later on that day or the next morning, because nutritionally speaking, there are like the physical nutrition is still going to be part of the physical nutrition within our physical form, as opposed to the energy or the quintessence of it, um, which is a word I learned recently actually, was in reference to offerings, and I think I referred to it in my previous video. I'll have to go back and check that for myself, really. Now I'm wondering where that word came from. I think it was Shaw. Or maybe it was Douglas Hyde. I was reading, actually, it was Douglas Hyde. I was reading something written by Douglas Hyde not so long ago, and that was kind of the reference within it. So, yeah, essentially, when it comes to these, I keep saying essentially, I feel like I'm running around in circles about it, but it isn't a question that we get asked a number of different ways. So I'm trying to come at it from different ways to answer those questions. What it really comes down to is active altar space and active altar engagement. Place your relationships, these sites for your spiritual relationship, in a place that is active for you. Not on a high shelf in the back room that gets covered in dust, or you don't go near there on a daily basis. Put it in a place where, even as you're walking past, like I step past my desk here to go out this door behind me, I'm brushing past the cauldron. My feet on the ground ring the ring, like shake the ring that rattles against the cauldron's form, and that is a musical element for me, to be honest. I'm also then checking, do I need to check in with something? Do I need to remove a candle or light a new candle? Is there some energetic feel I have in regards to my spiritual relationship by moving through that space where I engage in my spiritual relationship? It then also means that I'm actively there should I feel it is time to remove anything that's not supposed to be there. And sometimes it does go a day over, or sometimes I have come back, and depending on the weather, you know, the coffee might be going on the turn, and it's like, okay, well, I pour it out, dispose of it, flush it, clean whatever I need to do, and then make another coffee, or if it is time to do so, if I'm opening another cream, because that is my offering and engagement with the deity I work for. So there are no hard and fast rules. I'm not going to say you have to do it within 24 hours, 48 hours, or it has to be gone within, because environmentally speaking, where you live is very different to where I live. Something in a dry, arid, warm environment may last a bit longer than in an extremely cold, humid environment. You know, there are going to be different impacts based on that, but it is about considering the active connection you have with your spiritual relationship. Treat it like a check-in every day. Treat it like, oh, I have to make sure I message my bestie in order to check in that they're doing okay, that I'm doing okay, that there's no favors outstanding, anything like that at all, because that's treating the connection you're pursuing, be it with a deity, be it with God's guides, guardians, be it with ancestors, treat it as an active conversation. Don't leave it unread. Don't leave it on like hanging open. It's okay for you to come and visit and be like, yeah, no, we're good. Just I walk out, like I walk past the Morgan's altar, which is behind my partner Laura. I don't interact with that deity in that space. I don't interact with the Morgan. But as I walk past, like, I'll just give her a smile and a wink of acknowledgement, that respectful engagement that I have or based on my relationship with the Morgan, my spiritual relationship that I am pursuing with her. I don't use that altar space because that's my partner's altar space. But I acknowledge it and I engage and respect the deity that is associated with it. And so perishable offerings, once you're kind of visiting your altar space regularly or wherever you're making these offerings, once you're kind of checking in with it, you're gonna know when to get rid of it, when to dispose of it. And if you do get it wrong, no harm, no foul. Clean it off, start again. Give yourself grace, give yourself kind of supports and props because we don't always have the headspace at times, but it is about approaching that conversation of spiritual relationship in an active way and do the best you can. Because when you know better, you just do better. And so you'll learn over time, how long can I leave that coffee there? Or, the bread, it'll stay for a little while, but I really should get rid of it after this time frame. Or my home environment is such that I can't make perishable offerings because I live in a shared space. I live in a shared communal space. I live in places where, it might attract wildlife in negative ways. Then it's a matter of looking at different ways to make offerings. Maybe check out that other video I did about like what are offerings in a spiritual relationship. And we have a lot more on this at the Irish Pagan School. All you got to do is go to irishpagan.school/free. We have videos, blog posts, stories, classes, a heck of a lot of teaching and available for someone, whether you're starting out on your spiritual journey or looking to, reconnect or engage, or whether you're looking to dive deeper on a specific topic. We hopefully have content for you. But if you come across a question that you can't find a resource for, shoot it in the comments. I'll do my best to answer it for you. Until next time, look after yourself, take care, Agus Slán. Goodbye.